What if the way we live could be so different that it clashed with almost every modern law we know? Imagine a world where traditions are so deeply ingrained that even the government's rules can't shake them. This might sound like a dystopian tale, but for the Amish, it's simply how they live, embracing customs and practices that often skirt or outright defy modern regulations. When you picture the Amish, what comes to mind? Horse-drawn buggies, hand-stitched quilts, and simple living? While these symbols represent much of the Amish lifestyle, behind those peaceful images lies a community whose way of life often collides with the laws of the land. From firearms and healthcare to moonshine and dairy, the Amish push back against modernity, but not in the way you might expect. They're not seeking rebellion for its own sake. They're protecting a way of life that's been passed down for generations. One area where this clash between tradition and law is especially intriguing is with firearms. When we think of the Amish, the idea of them owning firearms might seem contradictory to their pacifist image. After all, they're known for their commitment to peace and nonviolence. But here's the thing. While the Amish don't fit the typical image of gun enthusiasts, many Amish families still own firearms, and they're not what you'd expect. It's not about personal protection or self-defense in the way modern society thinks of guns. For the Amish, firearms are tools for hunting and for protecting livestock. In their world, a rifle isn't so different from a plow or a hammer. It's just another piece of equipment for the job at hand. You'll often find high-quality firearms tucked away in Amish homes, passed down through generations, well-maintained, and treated with the same respect they give to any heirloom. But here's the kicker. Those firearms often go unregistered. Many Amish communities opt to bypass modern gun laws entirely, seeing registration as unnecessary government overreach. They view these laws through the lens of tradition and self-reliance, where the family's methods of doing things trump the bureaucracy of the outside world. It's a choice that can put them at odds with the law, but it's a risk many are willing to take. In 2019, a police investigation in rural Ohio uncovered just how widespread this practice was. Amish families were found to be owning and using firearms without registering them, primarily for hunting purposes. While it might seem like a violation of the law, it's not as if the Amish were going around brandishing weapons in the street. In fact, they were doing exactly what they always had, quietly and respectfully using firearms in ways that were integral to their way of life. The legal risks are real. Getting caught with an unregistered firearm can result in heavy fines or even criminal charges. But for many Amish families, the risk is seen as a small price to pay for maintaining their traditions of self-sufficiency. Why should they need to get a government permit to own something that's been a part of their life for generations? After all, their great-grandfathers never had to deal with such red tape. But this isn't the only area where the Amish traditions and modern laws don't exactly get along. Healthcare practices in Amish communities also bring them into conflict with the state, particularly when it comes to the use of alternative medicine and their resistance to modern healthcare systems. In an Amish household, you won't find the standard pharmaceutical products lining the shelves. Instead, you're more likely to see jars of dried herbs and bottles of homemade tinctures. Traditional remedies, often passed down through generations, play a crucial role in their health practices. Imagine someone from the outside world trying to understand why an Amish family might be brewing garlic, honey, and various herbs into a concoction instead of reaching for modern-day medicines. To the Amish, these remedies are tried and tested, part of a living history of what's worked for their people. But when it comes to selling these remedies or offering them as health treatments, the legal issues get trickier. In some cases, Amish communities have their own healthcare practitioners, people who aren't licensed medical professionals, but who know how to treat ailments with natural remedies. These unlicensed healers operate on trust within their communities, but their practices don't always meet the approval of state and federal health regulations. Then, of course, there's the vaccine issue. Many Amish families choose not to vaccinate, citing religious beliefs. This can lead to tension with public health officials, particularly in the event of an outbreak. The Amish see their choices as a matter of religious freedom, and to them, the government shouldn't be involved in such personal decisions. But this stance has raised concerns, especially when diseases like measles begin to spread. Think their approach to healthcare is unconventional? Just wait until you hear about their homemade alcohol. You may be surprised to learn that in some Amish communities, there's a thriving underground culture of home brewing, moonshine, cider, and wine, to name a few. While most Amish communities avoid alcohol, a number of them continue the practice of brewing in secret. These aren't mass-produced operations. Instead, they're small-batch, family-run affairs, craft brews made from fruit grown on their own land. In 2020, police uncovered a network of Amish families in Ohio who were producing and selling homemade moonshine to nearby towns. It wasn't exactly an illicit criminal enterprise. It was more like a neighborhood operation that happened to be completely unlicensed. The motivation for these brewers isn't to make a quick profit or fuel a black market operation. It's about preserving tradition. For many Amish families, these recipes are an essential part of their cultural and religious practices. Of course, there are serious legal risks involved in making moonshine without the proper permits, including heavy fines and potential jail time. But for the Amish, these risks are often outweighed by the importance of maintaining their customs. They don't see themselves as criminals. They're just keeping alive practices that were once normal before licensing laws made them illegal. And the legal troubles don't stop there. In Amish dairy farms, there's another area where tradition bumps up against modern regulations. The Amish are known for their raw milk products, including cheese and butter, which they believe to be healthier and more natural than their pasteurized counterparts. But raw milk is heavily regulated in the United States, and transporting it across state lines is strictly prohibited. To get around these regulations, some Amish farmers have turned to cow shares. Instead of selling milk directly, they sell shares in a cow, which entitles the buyer to a portion of the milk. This allows Amish dairy farmers to sidestep certain regulations, though they still face legal hurdles if their products cross state lines. The stakes are high. Federal agencies have imposed massive fines on Amish farmers for violating raw milk laws. One farmer was hit with a $100,000 fine for selling raw milk cheese across state lines. Ironically, some Amish customers go to great lengths, even joining underground milk clubs, to get their hands on these raw milk products. But the Amish aren't just sticking to tradition for the sake of it. They truly believe in the health benefits of raw milk. They argue that their milk, unaltered by modern pasteurization, is better for the body and more natural. Their commitment to these practices is so strong that they're willing to face legal consequences in order to continue producing their traditional dairy products. Finally, consider the Amish approach to the way they work. Their furniture is known for its craftsmanship, and their woodworking shops are admired for producing some of the finest products available. But the way they do it would likely make any modern workplace safety inspector have a heart attack. The Amish way of life in their workshops is all about tradition. The tools they use are often customized versions of power tools, running on diesel-powered compressors instead of electricity. Safety features are often non-existent, and many young Amish teens learn the craft through apprenticeships, bypassing modern child labor laws. These workshops create high-quality furniture, but often operate in ways that would make OSHA cringe, and yet, despite the lack of safety regulations, these workshops thrive. The Amish rely on community support rather than workers' compensation insurance, dealing with accidents in a way that's less about paperwork and more about mutual aid. But even when these workshops are found to be in violation of modern safety codes, they often reopen quickly, finding ways to operate under the radar. The Amish have found ways to preserve their way of life, even if it means bending or avoiding modern regulations. From unregistered firearms and raw milk to traditional workshops, they continue to live by a set of rules that, while not always in line with the law, allow them to maintain the cultural practices that have sustained them for centuries. Their story is a fascinating reminder that sometimes tradition can be stronger than the law, and the power of a close-knit community can help keep these practices alive, even when the rest of society looks on in confusion or disbelief.